Sarah Jo Transroot has always loved to play in the dirt. Now she has taken that love and incorporated it into a style of pottery that reflects her passion for the outdoors and organic shape.
Art gave me a release because I was so nervous as a child. I think it gave me a release where I could do things that I was actually good at. I usually start with going out to the rhubarb patch and looking at my leaves. I grew up with rhubarb leaves. You know, we played with rhubarb leaves. We did stuff with rhubarb leaves when we were growing up. I need to find two similar leaves. Of course, no two are alike. And I look for a leaf that kind of spikes my creative interest. I need a leaf also that will lay somewhat flat, because if it's too much wavy, then you can't get it laid down into the clay. The first time I got an inkling to use clay is I bartered with a friend. She made the cement leaves, which I'm sure most people are familiar with out of rhubarb. And I looked at that and I thought, it's so heavy and clumsy. It's beautiful, beautiful, but I don't want it to be so heavy. I thought, I can do clay. And I have to do some trimming on the veins, because if the veins are too thick, they will press all the way through your clay, and then you don't have a leaf, you have bits and pieces of mess. One leaf is pressed in, I flip it over, and I actually devein the second leaf of the big veins, press it in, and then I lay it into whatever form I decide I'm going to be using with that particular leaf. I always liked dirt and growing things, you know, and I think the clay lets me express that passion. I learned a lot in the production pottery, you know, learning more discipline actually there. You know, in college they emphasize the creative more, and when I worked at the production pottery, I learned more discipline. I just kind of ease it down into the bowl. It kind of somewhat decides on its own which way it wants to flip, and somewhat I decide it needs to go one way or another. Don't want any real deep creases. I allow them to dry. I pick some of the leaf out. What doesn't come out comes out, burns out in the kiln. Then I get to decide what colors these leaves are going to get. They don't have to be green. They can be red, they can be blue, they can be combinations. And I pick the colors that I want to go on the leaf, and I glaze, and I usually use the pouring method just to let it flow in with the leaf so it has kind of a growing, flowing feel to it. I don't know, a lot of it's trial and error. You know, you try something, it didn't work, well, what did work? You know, some glazes work better with other glazes than, you know, because I do a lot of glaze overlay. And you get wonderful things, and sometimes they're not wonderful, but you learn then from it. Sometimes there's some glazes that work better underneath, some work better on top, some don't work together at all. I realized I could melt glass in this and make it look like water running down into my leaf, and it just, one thing added to another, and I went from flat leaves to more rounded leaves. I can throw on the wheel, and I can do other hand-built things, but you know, when I can use something that has grown with the clay and create something with it, that's when I feel the passion. When I put the pieces into the kiln, I teeter pieces of broken glass where I feel like water would flow. If you get too high with the glass, it starts dissipating and makes kind of a weird charred look in your pot. You know, if you get the right temperature, it has this wonderful flow. Then it gets fired again, and it's like Christmas every time I open the final firing, because you never know for sure if it's going to work exactly how you planned. It usually doesn't, but usually it's wonderful. It's therapy. You know, you have the self-gratification that you've made something beautiful. There's something for me about digging in dirt, playing in the clay, that just makes me feel good. And that's kind of a therapy for me too. I really enjoy seeing it done, but one of the joys is seeing how other people react to them. You know, they see these leaves and they go, wow, is that real water? That's one of the first reactions. They want to touch, they're scared to touch the glass, but they want to. I was, oh, go ahead and touch it, and that's not water. You know, they expect it to be water in the bottom of these leaves, and it's glass. And then, you know, just watching their reactions to the different colors and shapes. The passion evolves into the next thing. And who knows what will be next. You know, it keeps evolving, you know, and it's kind of a journey. And it speaks a little bit of my story, I guess.
Prairie Mosaic is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. The North Dakota Humanities Council, a nonprofit, independent state partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities, the North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.